graduate students from McMaster University.
We are interested in looking at the phenomenon that people like to move along to different types of music. A study conducted by Maria Vitek examined this relationship of moving along to music, or groove, alongside rhythmic complexity, in this case syncopation. Their study found that some, but not too much syncopation is optimal in adults for groove, and this is represented here by this graph plotting syncopation on the x-axis and urge to move on the y-axis. As you can see, the graph shows an inverted U-shaped relationship, highlighting that medium syncopation seems to be optimal. From there, we wanted to explore if the syncopation-groove relationship could be a fundamentally fixed aspect of rhythm perception, or if it could be experience-dependent, meaning it could change with age and development as well as expertise.
For the developmental study, we wanted to see if children have the same syncopation-groove relationship as adults or if it's different. If we found that children had a different relationship than adults, for example, preferring simpler rhythms that are easier to dance to, this would suggest that it's something that's learned, whereas if they have the same relationship, this would suggest that it's fundamental. We also wanted to see if it was stable or establishing over age.
For the expertise study, we wanted to see if the syncopation-groove relationship differed in expert dancers and non-dancers. Expert dancers having experience moving to rhythms may increase groove and preferred complexity. We also want to see if the syncopation-groove relationship depended on dance style. Hip-hop dancers, for example, move to more syncopated music than ballet dancers.
For the developmental experiment, we conducted a study on Lookit to allow people to participate from home. Participants were assigned to one of 3 syncopation comparison conditions, either low versus medium, medium versus high, or low versus high, and we used 4 rhythms from each of the low, medium, and high syncopation categories. Kids did 2 different tasks, a perceptual force choice task and a behavioral dance task. In the perceptual task, they heard 2 rhythms in each trial and were asked which was better for dancing. In the behavioral dance task, we played longer rhythms and asked them to dance more for rhythms that were good for dancing, and then 2 people rated their videos.
For the expertise task, we had adult expert dancers and non-dancers complete an online rating task where they listened to 50 drum breaks ranging from no to high syncopation. After listening to the drum breaks, participants were asked to rate how much the drum breaks made them want to move in a general way, as well as other rating questions for each group. Participants also completed a 10-item personality inventory and the Goldsmith Dance Sophistication Index, or GDSI, which was used to look at individual differences in dance sophistication.
This compares difference scores in the force choice task between each of the 3 conditions. So M minus L is medium minus low, H minus M is high minus medium, and H minus L is high minus low. We found that adults prefer medium over low for eliciting highest groove, medium over high, and no difference between high and low. Children showed very similar results, also preferring medium over low, and no preference between low and high, but they didn't have that same preference for medium over high. We see similar results in the behavioral task where children danced more for medium syncopation rhythms than low, and didn't dance differently for high versus medium or high versus low. Also, rather than comparing between the 2 syncopation levels like we did in this graph on the left, we also looked at group differences for overall movement and found that groups with medium syncopation rhythms played at all throughout the experiment danced more than the group that did not have medium syncopation rhythms played. We also looked at correlations with age and found that as children get older, they're more likely to rate medium as better for dancing than low or high. The same thing is seen in the dance task, suggesting that with age, the relationship becomes more adult-like.
For the expertise task, we plotted syncopation levels on the x-axis and urge to move or groove on the y-axis, and looked at dancers and non-dancers. Each colored line represents a single participant, and the black line is the average of all participants' fits. Overall, dancers and non-dancers displayed an inverted U-shaped curve. When comparing the 2 groups, there was substantial evidence that the mean groove ratings in optimal or peak syncopation are equivalent in dancers and non-dancers. However, the R-squared values were higher for dancers, indicating that the inverted U-shaped relationship for syncopation and groove may be more reliable in dancers. For the personality measures and dance sophistication, there was no evidence of any association between these measures and the syncopation-groove relationship, except between R-squared values and dance training, active dance, and urge to dance subscales. For this graph, we compared expert dancers from 2 highly contrasting styles, hip-hop and ballet, and plotted their syncopation-groove relationship, the blue lines being hip-hop and the red lines being ballet dancers, with the bolded lines representing the average fits of each group. We found anecdotal evidence that these 2 styles also show the same syncopation-groove relationship, the smaller Bayes factor potentially being due to smaller sample sizes in these groups. Overall, the syncopation-groove relationship appears to be equivalent in dancers and non-dancers, besides being more robust in dancers, and it is not associated with dance sophistication or personality.
If we look at results from the developmental and the expertise experiment together, both suggest that the relationship between syncopation and groove is fundamental rather than based on experience. But experience, like training and age, does seem to solidify this relationship.